Let's move on to fiscal responsibility. In your professional life, what are some examples where you have had to manage large budgets like the county would put on you as your responsibility as county judge?
When I came to Waller County, I left working at a law office that did suits similar to what's going on with the landfill suits for justice for people. And part of that work involved fundraising. Part of that work involved creating a budget. I think that's incredibly important, and you got to live within your budget. You got to live within your budget. Sometimes when it comes to litigating, you can't go out and pay for a certain expert. That's an example. You got to work within your budget. When I came here, I had a law degree. I'd been practicing. But I knew that there was another direction in my life, and it involved working with domestic violence and sexual assault, which was part of the work I did at my law office. I was able to successfully write a grant for $450,000. That was a budget I had to live in for 2 years at Prairie View. And you had to watch the supplies, you had to watch all of that. Believe it or not, that's what the county judge does. You gotta watch the nickels and dimes of Waller County. You gotta make sure that if some department wants a toy that costs $100,000, how are we gonna finance it? What's the impact on tax dollars? I've already done that as your county commissioner. Being involved in the budget process, being involved in people coming to commissioner's court wanting to move money from one line item to another, that's what a county judge does on a regular basis. I've dealt with those budgets. And I ask you to trust me with that experience. With regard to how we do budgets, I see the sheriff tapping his boot because sometimes I had a lot of questions for him with regard to equipment. People have to justify what they need when it comes to budgets. People have to justify how they're going to spend money because it is your money. It is your money. That's one thing I absolutely get. In my law practice, I have to manage my money because I've got to pay for the overhead. I'm a solo practitioner. I've worked at a nonprofit. You live within your budget. But more importantly, I served Waller County for 4 years as a county commissioner, working and planning on budgets. I would definitely like to have the use of a grant writer because we could do a lot of projects with a grant writer. We could balance public and private resources in our budgeting process as well when it came to doing new projects, when it came to working on educating people, when it came to developing projects that truly serve the public. I think that's important, absolutely important. And that's the knowledge base that you get when you vote for Sylvia Cedillo to serve as your county judge.
Thank you, Sylvia. Trey?
Well, first off, I am a private business owner and I'm a taxpayer. So I appreciate as much as anybody in this room the importance of fiscal conservatism and responsibility. I think it is absolutely one of the #1 jobs of our elected officials is to be prudent and careful with our tax dollars. It's a very precious thing. They have a fiduciary duty to make sure that that money is not wasted in any way, shape, or form. I've been involved with a number of organizations over the years where we had budgets. We had to do budgeting, Waller Chamber of Commerce, Citizens for Better Waller County EDP. I've been involved with the county on a number of these projects, like on the recycling center. So I understand what goes into the budget. I understand what it takes. I am a fiscal conservative to the point of, I probably would even call myself a Reagan Republican. Because I think government is not always the solution, and that government can be the problem. And sometimes government needs to get out of the way and let the taxpayers spend the money that they see fit. Now, that being said, there are some things where a government has to do. Roads, for example, law enforcement. Sheriff is here tonight. Sheriff will tell you, majority of your tax dollars go to roads and they go to law enforcement. Because without safety, nothing else matters. If you don't feel safe in your home, if you don't feel safe when you go to the grocery store or you go to the stop and go, it really doesn't matter. There is no quality of life. Would you agree, Sheriff? Right. Okay. So that is absolutely important that we watch every dollar. We make sure the money that we're spending with the sheriff's office on the roads actually end up being used in a productive manner. There's too often too much waste, and there's too many perks. Maybe not as much on the county level, but definitely on national and state level. We have got to watch every penny. I am going to work really close with the department heads. I have a number of action items. Adherence, county budgeting is key. Grant writing is going to be huge. We need a full-time grant writer. We have to start, encouraging county employees to think about, treating that money like their money. And I'm going to work with all the county officials and elected officials to make sure that we watch every dime and that it's being used in a productive manner. That's the most important thing I can do in terms of your tax dollars. We run the county based on that budget. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's a little after 8, and I know we said we were going to try to break by 8 o'clock, but there's two other questions that I want to ask. Both candidates have whacked me across the knuckles and said you don't ask the hard questions. I don't know, maybe tonight I've got a few out, I don't know. But I have two pieces of paper, and I want them to each write the question that they want to ask their opponent. You okay? Write that down for me.
I'd love to be able to do that.
Are we getting what you want out?
Doing a great job, Richard. Let's give Richard a
While we're doing that, I want to make a couple of acknowledgments here. The flowers were donated by Diorio's. Thank you so much for them. Jackie, where are you? Jackie's been doing photographs for us again, and I think, Vicki, I'm sorry. Vicki, right. Where is she? Vicki, are you going to take pictures when we're done? Is that what the deal is? Okay, so track her down. Frazier's, what did Billy do? Well, I was looking for a piece of concrete, Billy. I couldn't.
I'm left running the camera.
Next time we'll have concrete flags, right? Is that what we're gonna do? Thank you all so much for what you've done. We appreciate it, and again, just to remember, we greatly appreciate KC for allowing us to meet here. Especially appreciate Sylvia pointing out that the county had a lot of old people in it, and I'm starting to feel that way. Whew, that is the truth. This question is from Sylvia. Why do you want to serve as the CEO of Waller County without any related elective experience serving the public? Did I get that right, Sylvia?
Yes.
This is actually part of my closing statement, but I guess I can talk about it now. I've been an attorney for almost 19 years. I think any attorney that enjoys the practice of law would one day like to be on the bench. And I really kind of thought that's something I was going to run for. And I had a meeting, I met with Buddy McCaig, and I talked to him about me running for a bench seat in this county. And he was the one that told me, I wish you would really give some thought to running for county judge. And I told him, I said, you know, a bench judge, you run, and then you have 4 years, they leave you alone. County judge, it's every day the politics. And he said, I know, but we really more than ever, Waller County desperately needs some real leadership. And I thought about it, and I prayed about it, and I prayed about it, and I looked at everything that I've done in Waller County since I got here, and things that fell in my lap, even when I was called upon, and I wasn't looking for these things, like setting up the Facebook for the wildfires. I was just trying. I wanted information, but when I looked back, I realized I'd been put on a path, and I believe everything happens for a reason. So I'm doing this because I think that this is what I'm being called upon to do. And when you feel as strongly about that as I do, you don't question it, you go forward, and you do what you can to do what you're being called upon. Thank you.
If you're elected, Trey, the first thing we're going to do is get you a handwriting class. Yeah, I understand.
I had to write really fast.
I know. It's too many words, It says I was at a Democratic forum, and I heard you apologize to Democrats in the room for your involvement in the meeting with the landfill company in May of 2011, and that you used bad judgment. Will you publicly apologize to all the citizens present here today? Yeah.
I was at the Democratic Candidates Forum in the primary. I was invited, and I attended, although I was told I was crazy. And during that meeting, I heard you apologize to the Democrats present for your involvement with the landfill, for meeting with the landfill company, that you had used bad judgment, and you apologized to them in that room. And I want to know if you're willing to apologize to all the citizens that are here today.
Absolutely. If I've offended anybody in that way, I will apologize. But I also want you to know that shortly after that, I went to the City of Hempstead City Council meeting, and I stood up and I said, I apologize because I think now it was bad judgment, only because when I came out of that meeting, there was a commissioner waiting to go in, and at the time, you don't think about it. But the other reason is, when I was inside that meeting, it was a dog and pony show of information, of lobbyists, of people like Jim Blackburn, who is a lawyer I respect highly, who is normally on the environmentalist side, and they were touting Jim Blackburn. And it was because of the collective nature of that meeting that all of a sudden, after it happened, it didn't seem right. I wasn't invited there with other people, just so you know. And that's not how it happens all the time. But I did sense, why do they have Jim Blackburn? Why do they have a media company? Why do they have all these people? It was only after participating in that and coming out that you felt in your spirit something is wrong. And I'll tell you, this is the kind of person you want sitting as your county judge, someone who realizes that, drives up and says, hey, wait a minute, this is much closer than was told to me in that meeting. But I also want you to know that a county judge is often asked and advised. Just like County Judge Glenn Beckendorf has said, he was advised by your elected district attorney to do certain things that didn't put things out in the public forum. I was advised of that. I didn't even know Elton Mathis was involved advising Glenn. But with regard to that meeting, it happened. I've apologized. We're in litigation. I worked to affirmatively get us started, but it didn't happen. I try to make good choices. And I hope that I don't ever make those kind of mistakes again. But I certainly want your confidence, your trust, and you know what you're getting with Sylvia Cedillo, someone who asks the questions and will certainly try to get the answers that you need so that you can sleep better at night. Thank you.
Thank you, Sylvia. Thanks, Trey. That concludes the questioning. I'm going to give both Sylvia and Trey just a couple of minutes to sum up anything that they'd like to before we move on, and I want to see if there's any other candidates in the room that have anything they want to say. Sylvia, you want to lead off? You were the last one on the mic. Is there anything you want to say before we adjourn this evening?
Sure. I want to tell this amazing audience tonight that serving as your county judge is much more about the rewards of public service. It is not about the awards of listing who gave you what. It is about the rewards of serving people who typically don't have a voice in county government, of serving people who don't have the high level of education and the bank accounts of some of us in this room. It is about doing the right thing for everybody, down in the South End, the North End, all over. It is about doing the right thing for people who don't necessarily have a command of the English language, whether we want them to or not. Es para todos. It's for everybody. That is incredibly important. And I want to walk away from tonight's forum knowing that you will have the good judgment in your heart to say, you know what? She's right. Her background is serving children. Her background is working with law enforcement. Her background is knowing the importance of getting out there on a branch and saying we need legislation to stop bullying, to know that we need to work with women in our community. My goal is to make sure that domestic violence advocates don't have a job by ending that awful scourge in our community that taxes our resources every day. It is about the rewards and not the awards when it comes to serving as your county judge. And it is about choosing an experienced leader who listens. Thank you.
Thank you, Sylvia.
Now, Richard, you said a couple of minutes, but you've told me 3 minutes
Okay,
previously.
all right.
I have a 3-minute, well, I think it's less than that. I want to start by thanking Contract for Waller County for hosting this forum, for the opportunity to be here tonight. I want to thank all of you for taking the time out of your schedule to make an educated choice. I opened the evening by telling you that you have two vastly different choices for Waller County Judge. And I stated earlier that I was going to demonstrate that to you tonight, and I believe I've succeeded in that endeavor. It is critical that our next county judge be someone of integrity. It is no longer enough to say you have an open door policy or to say that you're committed to transparency or open government. It is now time for action. Based on what you've seen tonight, it is time for you to decide what kind of leader you want for Waller County. And you're going to be able to do that with your vote. Whether it's meeting a deadline, conducting your campaign within the boundaries of the law, or giving people the information that they have a right to have, I believe that I've demonstrated I've done these things and that I will continue to do so as your next Waller County Judge. Small actions say everything. What you do when nobody is looking says everything. Ethics, integrity, having a moral compass. You should demand that in a leader and in his or her actions. During this campaign, I sometimes have quoted scripture on my Facebook page. I do that because I have a faith in God above all else. I am running because I believe this is what He is calling upon me to do. So what I'd like to do is close with just a short scripture verse, and it's a verse I've quoted before, and I like it because it's not only talks about having faith in God, but it's also about having faith in your leaders. Because I think this verse actually speaks to me as a potential elected leader. And it's Jeremiah 29, verse 11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. This is also my promise to you. God bless everyone here. My name is Trey Duhan. I am running for Waller County Judge, and I would be honored to have your vote. And God bless Waller County. Thank you.
Thank you, Trey. Appreciate it. I got a couple other little housekeeping items that I want to make sure we take care of before we get out of here. But first and foremost, I want to again thank Trey and Sylvia, not only for being here tonight, which is an important thing, but for putting themselves out there and running for public office in this county. We're at a real crossroads here, and if we don't get the right leadership and then get behind that leader 100%, we have no one to blame but ourselves. So Sylvia, Trey, thank you so much. So, I saw a couple of candidates wander in. Mr. Karisch, you have anything you want to say? We'll give you 30 seconds. It's just right. Debbie will time you.
Okay.
My name is Charles Karisch. I'm running for re-election for Justice of the Peace Precinct 1. I've been doing this for almost 16 years. And those in Precinct 1, I would appreciate your vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Charlie. Larry Parr, where is Larry left, or is he still? You want to say anything before you take off?
I like to say that I'm funding my own campaign, so I don't have any of those issues. The other thing is there's 43,000 people in Waller County, and there's 120,000 in the Montgomery County area that Cecil Bell represents. I'm running for this position to hopefully get 30 to 40% of the vote to say, Cecil, won't you come see us? Thank you.
You gotta love politics, don't you? Mr. Tibbs, I think you have kind of won your race, but you're certainly welcome to have the podium if you want.
Thank you for allowing me this opportunity to speak to you tonight. I would like to start I too would like to quote scripture. I would like to quote James 4:17. If anyone then knows the good that they ought to do and doesn't do it, it's a sin for them. Am I right? You're right. All right. So I come before you tonight to do the good that I ought to do. I want to first say this ad that was placed, that you mentioned, Mr. Duhan, that was placed in the Hotline Citizen infuriates me. I asked Sylvia's campaign manager not to do it. He wanted me to do it. I said no. He asked others to do it. They said no. So they put this ad in the paper. That infuriates me. Another thing that infuriates me about this, it says that the Democratic Party has filed an ethics complaint. That is not true. Let me explain to you who do not know politics. The Democratic Party can only act when the chairman and the precinct chairman come together in a meeting and agree and vote to do that. We had no such meeting. I did file the complaint. I have to say that I made a freshman mistake. And I'm big enough to stand up and say, I made a mistake, because I did that. Mr. Duhan pointed out my withdrawal. I did ask the commission to withdraw my complaint, because after further study, I realized I had made a mistake. And I come before you tonight not only to speak against this ad, but also because I'm big enough when I make a mistake to stand up and say I'm sorry. Mr. Duhan, I'm sorry, and I hope you accept my apology. God bless you.
Well, under the heading of wow. I kind of lost my place there for a second. Let's see, also running, well, Trey, we've heard from you, and Sylvia plenty tonight. Thank you again for your time. Thomas Preuss, do you have anything else you want to say tonight before you leave? Okay. All right, well then that before we break, as we're breaking, I just want to say from the bottom of my heart to those people who work on the steering committee of this organization with me, who basically have done everything except what I'm doing here tonight. Debbie, Joanne, Bill Hunsinger participates with us, Kelvin, Billy Fraser, Rick Welch. Without them, this wouldn't happen. It would not happen. We'd be out in the parking lot with a flashlight and a megaphone. So Again, thank you so much for coming. Get out and vote. Early voting is open. Don't forget, it's coming up in November.